Remember that movie? Elizabeth Warren coming up. So Elizabeth Warren running on a platform that is very familiar to
Senator Elizabeth Warren
tax lawyer
has decided to throw her hat into the arena towards running for president of the United States of America.
Definitely triggers Donald Trump. Whenever she speaks, Donald Trump tweets. A lot of people think that is a selling point for her to be the nominee, that she's somebody who would get under Donald Trump's skin, both because she's a woman, because she has some really strong issues, because she scares Wall Street, because she has definitive plans like a wealth tax. Donald Trump probably doesn't like that idea either. So Elizabeth Warren is going to make her case right now in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Here she is.
In the 12 years that I've known Joe Kennedy, I've watched him up close as he fights every day for what he believes in. Joe is a good man and a good friend. Thank you for being here today, Joe. Thank you. And thank you to all of our dynamic speakers who've been keeping everybody fired up and everybody warmed up this morning. And thank you to the best partner ever in the United States Senate. He's been fighting for climate change, and now he's fighting for a Green New Deal, Ed Markey. Let's re-elect him to the Senate next year. And thank you to a woman who is now making her own way in the halls of Congress, Lori Trahan. And thank you to Councilor Michelle Wu, to Sheriff Steve Tompkins, to Mayor Danny Rivera, great leaders and longtime friends. And thank you to Karen Spilka and to colleagues in the State House and other local leaders, all of whom are with us here today. Thank you. And most of all, thank you. Thank you to everyone. I love you too. Thank you to everyone who's traveled here to Lawrence. I am deeply grateful that you came here on a cold and blustery day to be part of this announcement. Thank you. Thank you. So, I want to tell you a story. A little over 100 years ago, textile mills in Lawrence, like the ones behind us today, employed tens of thousands of people. Immigrants flocked here, think about this, from more than 50 countries for a chance to work in these looms. Lawrence was one of the centers of American industry. Yeah, business was booming. The guys at the top were doing great. But workers made so little money that families were forced to crowd together in dangerous tenements, and many lived on beans and scraps of bread. Inside the mills, working conditions were horrible. Children were forced to operate dangerous equipment. Workers lost hands and arms and legs in the gears of machines. 1 out of every 3 adult mill workers died by the time they were 25. And then, on January 11th, 1912, a group of women who worked right here at the Everett Mill discovered that their bosses had cut their pay. And that was it. The women said, enough is enough. They shut down those looms and they walked out. And soon, workers walked out at another mill in town, and then another, until 20,000 textile workers across Lawrence were on strike. Now, these workers, led by women, didn't have much. They didn't even have a common language. Nevertheless, they persisted. organized. They embraced common goals. They translated the minutes of their meetings into 25 different languages, so that the English and Irish workers who'd been here for years and the Slavic and the Syrian workers who were new to America could all stand together. Now, they hammered out their demands: fair wages, overtime pay, and the right to join a union. Big businesses at that time called those demands a threat to the very survival of America. And the bosses were determined to shut it down. They spread rumors and fear about the strikers. One factory owner even paid a guy to plant sticks of dynamite around town so that he could frame the workers as a violent mob. The mill owners also owned city government, and city government declared martial law and called in the militia. Some strikers died in violent clashes with the police. Understand, it was a hard fight. Families that were already going to bed hungry had to make do with even less. They were cold, they were under attack, but they stuck together and they won. Higher wages, overtime pay, everybody back at work. And those workers did more than improve their own lives. They changed America. Within weeks, more than 250,000 textile workers throughout New England got raises. Within months, Massachusetts became the first state in the nation to pass a minimum wage law. And today, there are no children working in factories. We have a national minimum wage and national worker safety laws. Workers get paid overtime, and we now have a 40-hour week. That's right. Because of the workers right here in Lawrence and all across the country, we have weekends. The story of Lawrence is a story about how real change happens in America. It is a story about power, our power, when we fight together. Today, millions and millions and millions of American families are also struggling to survive in a system that's been rigged by the wealthy and the well-connected. Hardworking people are up against a small group that holds far too much power, not just in our economy, but also in our democracy. Like the women of Lawrence, we are here to say enough is enough. We are here to take on a fight that will shape our lives, our children's lives, and our grandchildren's lives just as surely as the fight that began in these streets more than a century ago. Because the man in the White House is not the cause of what is broken. He is just the latest and most extreme symptom of what's gone wrong in America. A product of a rigged system that props up the rich and powerful and kicks dirt on everyone else. So once he's gone, we can't pretend that none of this ever happened. It won't be enough just to undo the terrible acts of this administration. We can't afford just to tinker around the edges, a tax credit here, a regulation there. Our fight is for big structural change. fight of our lives. The fight to build an America where dreams are possible, an America that works for everyone. And that is why I stand here today to declare that I am a candidate for President of the United States of America. The truth is, I've been in this fight for a long time. I grew up in Oklahoma on the ragged edge of the middle class. Now, when my daddy had a heart attack, my family nearly tumbled over the financial cliff. But we didn't. My mother, who was 50 years old and had never worked outside the home, walked to Sears and got a minimum wage job answering the phones. That job saved our house, and it saved our family. I ended up at a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. But think about it. That is how the daughter of a janitor managed to become a public school teacher, a law professor, and a United States senator. I believe in an America of opportunity. I've spent most of my life studying what happened to families like mine, families caught in the squeeze, families that go broke. And what I found was that year after year, the path to economic security had gotten tougher and rockier for working families, and even tougher and even rockier for people of color. I also found this wasn't an accident. It wasn't inevitable, no. Over the years, America's middle class has been deliberately hollowed out, and families of color have been systematically discriminated against and denied their chance to build some security. Now, it started very quietly. The richest and most powerful people in America, they were rich. I mean, really rich. But they wanted to be even richer, and they didn't care who got hurt. So every year, bit by bit, they lobbied Washington and paid off politicians to tilt the system just a little more in their direction. And year by year, bit by bit, more of the wealth and opportunity went to the people at the very top. And that is how today, in the richest country in the history of the world, tens of millions of people are struggling to get by. Since the early 1970s, adjusted for inflation, wages in America have barely budged, but the cost of housing has gone up nearly 2/3. The cost of college has nearly tripled, and 40% of Americans couldn't find $400 to cover an emergency. That is millions of hardworking people in this country whose lives would be turned upside down if the transmission fell out of the car or somebody got sick and missed a week at work. The middle class squeeze is real, and millions of families can barely breathe. It is not right.
I know it's not right. I'm going to make a comment on what she just said. Whenever it comes to doing things the good old-fashioned way, towards people building from the bottom and going to the top, that dream here in America has just about come to a complete, total, abrupt end. And that's what the wealthy and the rich and the powerful wanted to do. I have said before, and I'll say again, we have been sabotaged. We have been sabotaged by our own superiority groups that are supposed to be the pillars of the communities here in America that didn't care nothing other than caring about themselves. And the vast majority of them are in fact Masons, Eastern Stars, and Shriners that have been led into a selfish belief system of thinking that they are superiority above and beyond all the middle class and the poor class. If I ever have the authority as being the President of the United States, I will immediately order for every institution to be shut down and possibly even burnt down to the ground, as far as these lodges where they all come together and hackle and talk about how that they screwed this one over and screwed that one over, and they used the laws of the courts to manipulate the middle class and the poor class pertaining to the 1%ers that has done this. You know, we can fight, kick, get on the ground and throw a raging fit. But as far as doing things the good old-fashioned way, I don't foresee it happening. Not at $21.5 trillion in debt. Not seeing how that they peddled all the cheap labor towards Zenith, Maytag, RCA, and every other company, in which even Harley now is talking about abandoning America because of the way that that the big wigs has treated and manipulated the laws. While they steadily was stuffing their pockets, we was going broke. And they was using us just like pawns in a chess game. You know, I envy what she's trying to do, and I hope it works. I really do. But in the year 2019 is far off the cliff as we have slidden. There's really no alternative other than to default and start all over again. Kind of like the little farmer that planted the crop and only about half of it come up. Sometimes you have to come to the realization that this isn't going to work no longer, and we're going to have to do something different. It's that old school concept that has put us where we are right now. And for the past 30 years, I have sat back and watched this farmer grow in power, and that farmer grow in power, and this politician grow in power, and this judge grow in power, and this senator or this representative grow in power, while the rest of the working class and the poor class done without. David, my younger brother, who passed away, going on 2 years come this year, literally hated the workforce in West Tennessee because of the way that they had done the average labor in this area. Hated them. And the bottom line is that he had a right to hate them, because they had abandoned us towards treating us fairly. In other words, in 2008 and in 2009, whenever the economy bubble bursted, and things sure enough went to pieces, in which the Saudis was a big blame for that too as well, because they drove the oil prices up to $4, $5, in some places even $6 a gallon out west. That literally put thousands of people in the poorhouse, during which time that everybody was losing their shirts, having to take second seat to medical insurance, having to take seat to a nice car, having to take seat towards not being able to maintenance their home properly, having to take second seat towards not being able to retire like they had plans of retiring, because the big dogs up at the stock market had basically raked off about 40% of everybody's retirement. I know exactly what happened. The wealthy and the rich took advantage of the poor and the working class. That has put us now at $21.5 trillion in debt. I pray not for the disbenefit of the American people towards prosperity and peace and love, because I wish that upon the good, decent people in America. But I pray that one day, and I will see it, if I don't see it in this lifetime, I will see it in the lifetime to come, true justice to fall upon to the feet of those that was a part of this travesty, that was steadily packing it in, steadily buying more cars and more homes and more vacation homes and more this and more that. I pray that all these people that had big fat pocketbooks, regardless whether they was farmers, mechanics, plumbers, welders, or just the general working class, such as the truck driver, I pray that one day we will see true justice up onto this land, even at the expense, if we have to break it down and start completely all over again. Because what has been done here, people should have went to jail, people should have been in tribunal courts, people should have been held accountable for doing their people wrong. And to this day, they'll put on an act, they'll go to church, and they'll feed their panhandler preacher, and they'll give maybe to this a little bit and maybe to that a little bit. But whenever it comes to them taking out of their bank accounts and pouring back into their neighborhoods that they stole from, I don't see the Moors doing that. I don't see Ronnie, the bail bondsman, doing that makes over $100,000 a year. I don't see Mike Wilson doing that, that's been in power now for 27 or 28 years. I don't see the Sandersons over there in Kenton that got fat off of the general public. I don't see them putting back in to society. I don't see these big fat farmers that drives a brand new truck, a brand new car, lives in a $250,000 home and has over $2 million worth of equipment. I don't see them pouring back into the neighborhood towards giving back what that they have stolen. And they won't. They'll hoard it all the way to the end. That's where we need good leadership. If we had a good, strong president, he would have done already went in and taken a certain amount of money from all the conglomerates, all the powerful, and all the wealthy out of their bank accounts. And that includes the people that has made such grand finales in Wall Street. And he would have already made adjustments with our currency in some form or fashion by either changing the development of our currency or changing the color of our currency. He would have done already made drastic moves in this regard. Just like the deal down south pertaining to the border crisis. Yeah, we've got a border crisis. But we've had a border crisis for 25 years towards illegals and towards drugs coming over the border from down from the south. It just didn't get started overnight. Why not build a canal or a lake or some sort of a floodplain and put a lot of people to work? That way you won't have to worry about deteriorating concrete or deteriorating steel. You won't have to worry about them digging a tunnel underneath the ground to get over here. The problem began with the adult political parties as well as the preachers going all the way back 30 years ago that has put us where we are now. And we can struggle, we can crawl, we can beg, borrow, and steal until it finally does collapse upon to itself. Or we can just come to an agreement that a mistake has been made because of these powerful, rich conglomerates and throw the burden back up onto them by allowing for this to get in the shape that it's gotten in pertaining to the one percenters. And we can start a new system that is more fair for not only the wealthy, but fair for the middle class and the poor class too as well. We are heading towards a total breakdown, a train wreck per se. And regardless whether this woman gets up there and preaches a good sermon or spills a good speech or whatever, I mean, she can get 90% of the people of what rights that hadn't been forfeited and taken from them to vote for. But the bottom line is that after she gets up there, if she bellies up to the pork, if she bellies up to the corrupt, if she bellies up to the mighty and the rich, we're just going to be in the same old boat once more again, because they continue to keep doing this to us election after election after election after election. need to go in the Bush Foundation and drain at least half of their assets from all the Bushes, from the president to the vice president to the cabinet to that particular cabinet. Need to drain at least half of their assets, as well as the Clintons. And I'm talking about people that has gotten fat, stinking, filthy, stinking rich off of the system. Probably all the way down to probably the Obamas. Including the president that we currently have right now. Talk about being played. It's not just the church people, the Christian society that has been played here, but it's the darkest of the sinners that have been abolished, stepped on, trampled on because of the elite, because of the conglomerates, because of the powerful. Until something major happens, all we're going to do is put a Band-Aid on the scab. Somebody's going to knock the outer scab off, and we're going to have to wait for it to heal back up. And then somebody's going to put another Band-Aid on until somebody knocks that scab off. All we're going to do is take the can and continue to keep kicking it down the road, hoping that the next administration will have the backbone of doing the right thing to the corrupt and the wicked that has put us in peril as we are right now. Like I said, my younger brother, David Jeffrey Jackson, after the event happened in 2001, which started us towards sliding down this cliff pertaining to what the Saudis done. Whenever the event happened in 2008, whenever we seen gasoline prices on the pump go as high as $5, $6 a gallon, that's what put a nail in the working class and the poor classes' caskets. And that's exactly what the wicked, rich, that's exactly what they wanted to do. But what they didn't realize is that they was cutting their own noses off to despite their faces. Because eventually, Paul will have to pay Peter. Eventually, we will no longer be able to maintain even our interest on our national debt, much less any principal. Eventually, it will collapse up onto itself. And these same demonic, wicked people that have now been driving brand new automobiles for the past 20, 25 years, that has vacation homes, that is paid for their daughters and their sons' education, that has big, fat bank accounts, are laying back and waiting for the new monetary system to take effect pertaining to the mark of the beast, 666, over here in America. And the thing about it is, they got the cart in front of the horse whenever it comes to global competition pertaining to DACA and open free trade and fair trade. Because ain't nobody in their right mind, first of all, going to try to enact the mark of the beast, 666, upon any living creature that's got any intelligence at all over here in America. And number two, they wouldn't accept it if they did. It would be a total calamity. It would be a civil war that would break out here in America that would escalate into other larger areas all over the world if they tried to do something like this. So the big wigs, the Illuminatis, the Bilderbergers, the Masons, the Shriners, the Eastern Stars, they messed up because they got the cart in front of the horse pertaining to global competition. You see, we're not the only ones that is aware of what the Bible teaches over here in America pertaining to the King James Version Bible. That book has been studied, read, analyzed, dissected, translated by probably 1,000 other different nationalities and countries all over the world in probably 3 or 4, maybe 500 or 600 languages. So we're not the only ones who's aware of which it's no longer a conspiracy, because we're on to what that they have done pertaining to the wealthy and the rich, the so-called conglomerates. Now the question is somebody that's either presently in charge or that will become in charge going to have the backbone of saying enough is enough, because all it's doing is causing hundreds of thousands of lives to suffer on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year episode. That's all it's done. All they have done is delay, thus saith the Lord, pertaining to the meek inheriting the earth. The true meek, the true godly people, the true saints of God, not the disguised ones, not those who are in sheep's clothing, but are literally raging, ravening wolves inside. All they have done is delay the process. In the meantime, all these people that was a part of that, I'll walk over their graves and I will watch as I'm in the heavenly kingdom, their spiritual souls be cast into the pits of hell. As I'm laughing, singing, and rejoicing up in heaven with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ of Nazareth. And those that are like me will be doing the same in the bridegroom pertaining to the great taking away. In the meantime, all these people that had deceived everybody in thinking that they was Mr. or Mrs. Goody Two-Shoes, in the meantime driving all their nice fancy cars, wearing their nice fancy suits, their nice fancy cologne and their perfume and their dresses and their shoes and their nice homes. They're gonna live a luxurious life in this life. But in the lifetime to come, I will watch them scream and scream and beg for mercy, while I rejoice in the joy of the Lord, because they will be getting just exactly what they deserve, according to God's judgment. Not mine, but God's judgment. Because they have brought this indignation, this travesty, upon to not only the wicked, but upon to the saints of God here upon to this planet. I don't know if they could apologize enough to the Heavenly Father from now on, between now and their natural deaths. I don't know that they could apologize enough to make things right with God pertaining to what has happened here. I don't know if they could give away enough assets or enough money to a good, legitimate ministry towards helping people. I don't know if they could give away enough stuff that would spare them towards what is just due in what has went on here. So this woman, this senator that is running for President of the United States, I think our ridiculous chief and commander Donald Trump has already degraded her to the point of calling her Pocahontas, simply because she knows that she had some Indian background about her. She didn't mean no harm in what that she had brought forth to the American people pertaining to the native culture. I don't belong. I'm not in a roll call pertaining to being associated with an actual tribe. I probably should have been, because I feel like I've got enough blood in me pertaining to me getting Indian, either on the Davis side or the Jackson side or even on my mother's side. I feel like that I've got enough Indian in me that I would probably be eligible to be in some sort of roll call, some sort of tribe. But I'm not going to pursue it. And the reason why I'm not going to pursue it is because they're not pursuing me. Why would I want to pursue anybody? White, black, Indian, Native, Canadian, French? Why would I want to pursue anybody if they're not got enough respect to pursue me? I have been so disrespected since I've come back to Northwest Tennessee. And to watch the drug-induced people that has been bamboozled by the wealthy and the powerful and the rich attack me. Attack me! And the people that they should have been attacking was the people that was hurting them. You don't attack the people that's trying to help you. That's biting the hand that feeds you. But they're so messed up in their minds and in their souls and in their hearts. They know that they want to lash out at somebody. They just hadn't discovered yet who they want to lash out at. It's not God and God's precious, holy, chosen people that has put us in the shape that we're in. It is the devil, Lucifer, the Antichrist, Satan, and Satan's people that has put us where we are today, towards doom and gloom. I wish this lady all the best of luck in her endeavors. Like I said, I personally think she and people like her are just throwing good time and money and effort to bad. Because it has reached the point that now you're just going to have to set it out and wait for this to manifest itself in the right time and in the right place towards letting it manifest itself out. In other words, let the train wreck go ahead and wreck. Because obviously this is what they wanted to begin with. And the only thing that I know to do is to pre-warn my viewers ahead of time and to let my viewers know that if anybody tries to enact the mark of the beast, 666, that's whenever bloodshed will fall upon to not only the American land again, but that's whenever the bloodshed will fall upon this planet, such as you and anybody else has ever heard of or read about in the history of this planet. We know what these demons and these devils have done. And if the truth be known, that woman that's running for president probably does too. Now, whether or not she admits it openly, like I'm admitting it, you'd probably have a better chance in seeing hell freeze over, because most people don't have the backbone of calling white white and black black towards being a straight shooter like I am. I actually look forward to the day that they draw up enough nerve that they bring in assassins and they take me out. Because what that they have done to this family will never be forgotten. Just like what that they have done in the Trail of Tears and Wounded Knee and other of my ancestors, including what went on out in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, will never be forgotten, either in this lifetime or the lifetime to come. The Europeans, the white man, is what has brought this curse upon to this land. And to be quite honest with you, I'm actually ashamed. I'm ashamed. I'm going to repeat it one more time. I'm ashamed of my people towards what that they have done. May God have mercy on them is all I got to say.